Hello, this is Megan.
And this is Mark.
Welcome to our 25th video of the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge construction at Disneyland. Today's June 15th, 2018.
First of all, we can see that a new beam structure for a rock spire has been made at the back end of the battle escape. Here on the model, we can see what the final look of it will be. To the right of this beam structure, workers are in the process of working on one of the spires. This worker here is adding concrete while the other workers are putting shape and detail to it. On the ground level side opening of the battle escape, we can see that plywood sheathing has been added adjacent to the metal studs that we observed last week. Now we're in Critter Country, and rock spires can be seen in the distance. And one of these spires, actually this one right here, is the one that we observed workers performing concrete work. And they're still adding the detail to it. Now we're on Big Thunder Trail. From here we can see the tallest spire in the distance. Let's get a closer look. Workers are in the process of removing the excess horizontal beams from the spire. And they're doing this by using a cutting torch. Alright, it's detached from the spire. The worker on the right continues to use the torch to remove some of the excess steel that is still sticking out. Now they're removing the next beam. These horizontal beams were used to help attach the rock forms into position, and they also were used for the scaffolding. Since they don't need them anymore, the workers are removing them. Next, what we'll do is go on Donald's boat in Mickey's Toontown to see the spire from that perspective. I'll go ahead and zoom in. From here we can see the stubs of the beams that we saw removed.
Also, we can see a third one as well.
Now a worker is spraying a coating at the end of the cut beam to help prevent rusting. He's doing the same with the second one. Now if we look at the spire to the right of this one, we can see an Imagineer painting detail work near the top. Notice that the Imagineer is using a reference diagram to get the exact look that they're looking for. As mentioned in part 24, these rock spires are going to be petrified trees. And one of the most attractive features of petrified trees is the wide range of colors they possess. It's said that no two petrified trees are exactly the same, as they all contain unique color combinations. This is done by certain minerals replacing the contents of wood, therefore creating petrified trees. And the white in petrified trees, at least on planet Earth, is commonly caused by the mineral silica, which is a rock-forming mineral. Now the worker is splatter painting a gray color on top of the white to make the white surface look more natural. This is what the white paint looked like before the gray paint was added. And I'll dissolve the picture back to what it looks like now. It is really awesome that Disney is making highly detailed and accurate petrified trees all the way down to the unique colors. I can tell they put a lot of thought into these trees, not only for the shape of the spires, but also in the use of the colors. Let's look at some more color examples that have been added to the spires. Alright, we'll start at the top. Black is one of the most common colors in petrified trees. This is created when carbon is mixed with water. Also notice that there's brown and yellow. This is developed when wood turns into iron oxide. Now if we pan down, we can see the color green. And there are a couple different elements known to produce this color in petrified trees, such as chromium and cobalt. If we pan down just a little bit more, we can see orange, caused by the mineral manganese. As mentioned before, we're actually comparing the color scheme to Earth's minerals, but it looks like Disney is planning to have the planet back 2 have the same, or at least similar mineral composition to that of Earth, which to me makes sense because it's a carbon-based planet. Alright, next we'll look at the development of Black Spire Outpost from Chippendale's Treehouse. Here we can see that a new dome has been added. We'll look at a split screen comparing the structure to the model. I'll label the new dome with the number 1 and the structure that we observed last week with number 2. Notice that they're actually on the opposite side of each other since the model picture was taken from the front end of the structure and the actual outpost picture was taken from the back end.
Today is June 23rd, 2018.
The stubs of the horizontal beams that we saw removed last time we were here have been covered with concrete and painted. Let's get a closer look. Here's what it looked like on June 15th. We can see the stubs of the beams. Now I'll dissolve back to what it looks like today. As we can see, the beams are completely covered and the area painted. Okay, now if we look at one of the spires to the left of this one, we can see that they're in the process of removing the horizontal beams here as well. Notice that some of the beam stubs have been covered with concrete, but haven't been painted yet. Next, we'll look at Black Spire Outpost from Chippendale's Treehouse. If we look closely, we can see that sheet metal has been added to the top of this cylindrical structure, and a plaster coating has been added to the sidewalls of this structure. This is what it looked like last week, and I'll dissolve the picture back to what it looks like now. Next, if we look over at the pyramid structure, we can see that concentric circular framework has been installed on the top. From our angle, we can see some of it. I'll go ahead and highlight it in yellow. This framework will be used to attach the dome that will eventually be put on top of the building. We'll look at the model to see what the final look of this building will be. We're now in Critter Country watching the Mark Twain go by. And once the Mark Twain passes, we'll be able to see a Millennium Falcon set piece being lifted and placed into the show building. This set piece is different from the ones we've seen before. It appears to be a wall for a doorway. Meg and I believe that this doorway is possibly for one of the cockpits. Now this is a picture that Disney released showing the Millennium Falcon hallway leading to a door. As you can see, the wall is at a slight angle in the lifting cage, but it definitely looks like it'll be a door for the hallway.
Today's June 30th, 2018.
If we look closely, we can see that new mesh forms have been installed, and workers are in the process of welding them into place. This is what the area looked like a couple weeks ago. Now we'll go back to what it looks like today. The workers are in the process of minimizing the space between the forms to create a filled-in surface. This is important before the concrete is added, so the concrete doesn't fall into the gaps between the forms. Now if we look to the left of the Millennium Falcon show building, more Millennium Falcon hallway segments have arrived on site. Here a telehandler is lifting one of the segments out of the truck. As the telehandler rotates, we can see the curvature of the segment. Now if we focus our attention to the top of the building, a crane is lifting Millennium Falcon set pieces to one of the top openings of the building. And what we're viewing here is the front end of a hallway segment.
Next, we'll go to Donald's Boat in Mickey's Toontown.
They're continuing to lift set pieces into the building. You may recognize this piece as framing to be placed around a door. Look closely at the framing. It's identical to the framing in this picture. This framing will be placed between the wall segment that we saw being lowered last time we were here. And if you look closely, you can see the actual door in the lifting cage as well. Notice the hexagon on the door. We can see the shape in the lifting cage. Now they're being lowered into the building. If we zoom out a little bit, we can see that steel mesh has been placed around this beam structure. This steel mesh is different from the other mesh that has been placed around the other rock spires. And it's different because it doesn't have the micron steel mesh attached to it. Next, we'll look at the rock spires to the left. The area where the holes were patched up from the horizontal beams has been painted. This is what it looked like last week, and I'll dissolve the picture back to what it looks like today. Next, we'll go to Chippendale's Treehouse to look at the developments of Black Spire Outpost. In the middle of the picture, mesh forms have been placed around a beam structure to create a spire. And at this moment, workers are in the process of installing scaffolding around this spire. And notice that this scaffolding is different from that around the other spires. There are no horizontal beams sticking out of the spire for the scaffolding boards. All of the scaffolding framework and support are external from the spire. Also notice that the mesh segments that have been installed have the micro and steel mesh attached. Now let's look at the model to see what the final look of this spire will be. Panning to the right, we can see that roof supplies have been brought in for the pyramid structure. If you look closely, you can see a curved beam put in place. This beam will be part of the support framework for the dome that will be put on top. Next, we'll go into critter country. The structure near the center of the picture has more detail added to it since we saw it last. Let's get a closer look. More color has been added to the left of the picture for the rocks. And behind this area, we can see that a white primer has been added. And eventually this area will be painted as well. I'll go ahead and zoom in so we can get a closer view of the new color added. Alright, now if we look up just a little bit, we can see the rock spire that we viewed from the Making Friends parking structure this morning. And the workers are continuing to weld the forms together. It is really coming along. Well, that's a taste of things to come.
We can't wait to see what they'll build next.